Hello, I'm Michael Kurland, CEO and co-founder of Branded Group, an award-winning facility maintenance and construction management company that services multi-site commercial properties such as retail, restaurants, healthcare facilities, and educational institutions. Welcome to the Be Better podcast. Each week, I interview thought leaders from a variety of industries who will share their stories and the lessons they learn as they strive to be better for their clients, partners, employees, and their community. Are you ready to be better? All right, welcome back to another episode of the Be Better podcast. I am your host, Michael Kurland, and thank you for being here. Today, my guest is Jon Bolen, CEO of EnTouch Technologies. Jon, why don't you tell the audience who you are and a little bit more about yourself and the company?
Absolutely. Really appreciate it, Mike. Thrilled to be here. I am, as Mike said, Jon Bolen. I'm the CEO of EnTouch. I've been a part of this great journey at EnTouch since 2013. And we changed the way that multi-site facilities managers run their building and manage their infrastructure. We do it, quite frankly, by improving their profitability. And we like to say, improving the planet just one building at a time.
I think that's a great tagline. We talked about that offline a little bit, and it made me smile. You know, I'm sure it makes your customers smile as well.
Absolutely.
So let's get started. Let's jump right in, Jon. We talked offline when we were first kind of having our get to know each other session, and we started talking a lot about developing your mission, your purpose, and your core values. And I thought that it was something that we both shared an experience in different times, obviously. But tell us a little bit about how EnTouch did develop your mission, your purpose, your core values. Let's get into that a little bit.
Sure. It's funny. I'm unsure if folks understand how critical a vision and a mission statement really are until they're absent. And I don't know if we talked about this before, Mike, but I'm a sailor, and running a company without a vision and a mission would be like setting sail without a map and a compass, right? And in today's world, it's probably without a GPS and a chart plotter,
right?
But it really is akin to that, right? Like no one would ever consider doing any sort of, even a short crossing without some sort of compass and some sort of directional capability. But somehow we sometimes think it's okay to run our companies that way. And in fairness, at EnTouch, we had a mission statement before we kicked off a process to really refine it, but it was a marketing mission, right? It wasn't a mission at our core, right? It wasn't our corporate compass for who we were, who we wanted to be. And we undertook over a year ago to really find out who that was. We actually engaged a strategic consulting firm to come in and facilitate a process for us. We interviewed all of our key employees. We interviewed our key customers. We even interviewed potential customers who we had lost.
Wow.
And our consulting partners then facilitated a multi-day workshop, right, that included the entire leadership team, and it even included several of our board members. And what we came to realize is that sort of snappy little line that I started off with, right, that our vision really is to save the planet, improve profitability, and do it one building at a time. And it was something that we could rally around. It was really interesting that the energy in the room when we got there, right? And what made it so much more poignant was all of the leaders in the company were there, right? As I said, including board members, including the chairman of our board, were in the room when we realized that's who we were, right? And then you have to kind of take it a step further. And now that you understand kind of the vision for where you want to go, your mission, how are we going to do it? So what we further articulated is we create a path to a healthier planet by delivering sustainable solutions that reduce energy, drive profitability, and simplify facility management for multi-site operators. And what that really does is, in a very quick, short statement, tells all of our people, what are your priorities? Right? What are you here to do? Right? First, big picture, change the world. And everybody wants to be a part of an organization that's kind of doing that. It's one of the reasons I work at EnTouch, right? I wanted to work somewhere where I could say to my kids, I do that. But more importantly, it tells everybody in the organization when you're trying to prioritize what you're doing, right? Am I doing something to reduce energy for my customers? Am I making their job to manage facilities easier? Or am I making them more profitable? And am I making multi-site operations easier?
Yeah, and all these things you're saying are powerful, and you know, to put all your leaders in one room and let them come up with that mission, it's got to be, you know, empowering for them. They feel like they have that skin in the game, and now they are helping to change the world. You know, it's all about baby steps, right? We
Mhm.
can't go out and like stop global warming by ourselves in one day, but if we all do our part, and we can feel like we're moving towards the greater good. So I think that is a great thing, and I think that's what we were talking about before, is that we both did a survey process and then
Right.
involved all of our employees, and it just gives them the skin in the game. Like, it's not just a paycheck, it's not just a name on a wall that we
That's
walk
right.
past every morning. It's actually a mission, right? And
No,
that's your mission, right?
100%. And we've not yet, I would say, rounded out the process by really articulating our core values, right? And to me, that's still a work in process for us, right? I've developed a single theme that I'm managing the business with, which is truth and transparency. Uh, and it's really become incredibly important in a really strange time to manage a business when we're all virtual. But I've relied on just that paradigm to communicate with my employees and my customers. But I'm looking toward the same kind of process to craft out, you know, more holistically what the core values of the business are to support that vision and mission.
Yeah, and you know, talking about that, when we first spoke, you did mention during this time, you know, going to truth and transparency to your customers and your employees. You talked about this. You were enjoying managing in this difficult time because it was a test of our capabilities, and you were like really
Right.
embracing the new normal. Like, talk about that a little more, because that was a good. I thought that was a good take on this, because we could all play. You know, we talked about how we were about to have our best years ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic hit, and now here we are. You know, could we be a victim and say, "Oh, poor us, poor us," or
Yeah.
could we be a victor? And I liked your thoughts on this and what you said. So give me a little bit more on that.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that, Mike. As you know, I'm pretty passionate about this topic, right? When we shut everything down, I mean, and myself included, we thought, 4 to 6 weeks, we're good, right? All we got to do is, you know, take our medicine here. We'll run a few scenarios. Maybe it's 8 to 12 weeks, but by July 1, this is really going to be in the rearview window, and we're good to go.
Should have
Here
been.
yeah, exactly, right. And here we are coming up on Labor Day, and there's really no. There is no back to normal in anybody's lexicon anymore. This is the situation we have to manage. And when you and I talked, I shared with you that my wife and I are both cyclists. And Lord knows, right, I do not look like a cyclist for people who watch the Tour de France. And so I don't always ride up hills and difficult roads nearly as well as my wife. But we're crazy cyclists in that you're in that small percentage of people that'll literally open up a map, look at a road we haven't been down, point at it, go, let's go here. And then we put that in our GPS and we just go. And oftentimes it's very hilly. And my wife climbs like a goat. And I mean, especially when they're rolling hills and you get to top of an unknown hill and you look and there's more hills off into the distance. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is so hard. It's a test. What's interesting is, and one of our favorite rides my wife and I did, just took out and just rode off into North Texas towards Oklahoma, and just discovered some of the most gorgeous roads, but it was one of the hardest rides I'd ever had. And we finished, and I said to my wife, like, that was really hard, but that was an amazing ride. And my wife looks at me and she goes, I know, that was amazing. Let's do it again tomorrow. And we did. And what's crazy about that, one, that we're cyclists and we do things and we think that's fun, but more importantly, that it was the test that made it so exciting. And so when you look at the pandemic and what we're going through now, right? We can choose, as you said, to just be a victim. Oh my God, look at the hills. It's so hard. I just can't wait till it's flat road again. I just can't wait to get back to the normal things that we used to do. Well, that's not going to happen, right? So you've got to decide that you're going to enjoy this moment as a leader and as an individual. Now, I'm not saying revel in all of the challenges of the pandemic, not at all. I'm saying enjoy being tested by it.
Yeah.
Recognize that this is when we can shine. Right? This is when our teams need us to lead. This is when our customers need our help. Right? This is when you can differentiate yourselves from everyone else. Because being the victim and just waiting for it to go back to normal isn't going to get anything done.
Absolutely. I think, you know, I have actually thought about that conversation a few times since, and as leaders, we both have our, proverbial toolbox, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I keep thinking, we're sharpening those tools because
Right.
when it does, it will never go back to normal, but when it does level out and we have some sense of normality back in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be that much better of leaders for having pushed through this time. And, our staff is going to look up to us and say they to use a sailing reference, steered the
Right.
ship through that storm, and we came out okay.
Right.
So I've thought about that quite a few times since our previous talk. So I wanted to make sure we touched on that a little bit because it's been impactful to me and hopefully to our listeners as well. So let me jump into the next question I wanted to get to. What's the impact do you feel of the company culture on employee engagement and retention? I know how I feel about that, and I'm
Right.
tried and true, but I'd like to get your take on that.
It's funny because the historically it was this significant component for us, right? I mean, we're a venture-backed technology company. I mean, culture is everything, right? And it's been this way since the days of the dot-coms in the late '90s and the early aughts, right? Where you've got to be cool to recruit the right people, and you've got to have a culture that's empowering and where people want to be, right? So we had the proverbial ping pong table. We had the beer keg in the break room. Our developers on Friday afternoons had their team stand up around the keg, right? We brought Friday breakfast in every morning for the whole company. We did cool outings. I mean, I think the last really cool one with we might have done was, axe throwing. That's a new thing. Everybody goes and throws the axes. I mean, so we did all of those, kind of fun elements, and they underpinned this environment of a tremendous amount of casual and personal communication, right? So we were a lot of our team members referred to us as a family, and so the pandemic though has forced us to really think about how are we digitally transforming that. And I mean, that to me is one of the biggest business problems I'm trying to tackle right now, right? Is how do I continue to have this incredibly dynamic, fun, empowering, and communicative culture when I can't just jump in the break room and play ping pong, although I didn't play ping pong very often. I watched it and made jokes about other people playing, in all fairness, because I'm really bad at it, but certainly share a beer with somebody, right? To bring in a new employee and walk them through the building and personally introduce them to every team member. And ensure that we had this sort of very flat culture. One of the jokes I think in the building is, a lot of old school folks will still call senior folks, Mr. Right. So if somebody calls me Mr. Bolen, I say, "What is my dad here?" Right. I mean, and so we just had this very casual culture. And now we have to figure out, we're going to have some permanent work from home policies. Right. We had a work from home policy a day or two, a pay period before we went to completely remote. And we believe when we come back, right, large portions of our organization will permanently be allowed to work from home. So we've already started looking for new office space. We're trying to rethink what that office space, how do I find an office space that's really exciting and inviting so that the folks that do feel safe want to come in, but also is safe when they get there, and that I can promote the same kinds of things we had in our culture on the fun side, but also the things that get jobs done really well, right? So the empowering side and the communicative side of our culture, that's something that we're turning over in our head every single day right now.
I mean, I totally agree. We have some of the similarities with our office space as well.
Mm-hmm.
I actually designed it about 2 years ago, and we moved finally into our new big, airy, spacious, way more square footage there because we thought we were going to grow into it, which we're never going to grow into now because we're going to also have the work from home probably be a permanent thing. And instead of the ping pong table, we had the foosball table. And I got to say, I thought I was good from my college days, and A, I haven't played in 20 years, so I'm rusty, and B, I'm not good. So I get it. But yeah, so we've grown into this new place, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to make that move forward with the permanent work from home. And we did a lot of Zoom calls initially, as Zoom happy hours. I don't know about you, but I am Zoom happy houred out because A,
I'm my own bartender, and I definitely don't know when to cut myself off at a Zoom happy hour.
Yeah.
And B, they get a little redundant, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's only so many pop culture questions you can ask every
Right.
other week. So
You start
what
to
is
see
the
attendance fall off.
Oh yeah, and so what's the new way? Like what are you thinking, and what do you see working going forward for this work from home culture
Well, I
that
think
we're going to be in?
I think you have to respect the success folks have had with work from home, right? So first and foremost, you're going to take a group of your employees and allow them to work from home and for extended periods. But what we found is we've also got to find a way to catch the lightning in a bottle again. Right? And some of that's the collaboration that oftentimes only face-to-face gets, right? The ability, so we were all in an open environment. So the ability to roll your chair back, stand up and say, hey guys, can we jump in a room real quick? I've got an idea. Right? It's really hard. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but you have to be so much more thoughtful about how you make that happen with Zoom or Teams. And so first and foremost, right, we've got to figure out a way to create an office space where people want to go. And so if I let you work from home, great, but I want to create an environment that you want to be there, right? So we're thinking more about productivity spaces. Honestly, we're thinking about going away from open spaces to at least for some people to having offices, so that they're comfortable being there all day, because that checks the safety box. It allows them to have one-on-one discussions in a relatively safe environment with someone else, as long as the office is itself is large enough. So we're thinking through what are the dynamics to get people together so we get that lightning in a bottle back, which is to me, right? How do you make major leaps forward in the product, major leaps forward for customers? It's when two or more people in your company start working on a problem in a collaborative fashion. And I've seen some of that happen with the virtual tools. I feel like it happens a little bit more slowly. And so I'm excited to try to leverage the new tool set, with a forward-thinking office environment that allows us to kind of do both. And then we have to start thinking more creatively about how do we bring our teams together, right? So we already had, just before the pandemic, and in fairness, probably about 3 months before the pandemic, it started very structured every 2 weeks, all hands company training, right? So we believe that every person in the business should be an expert on the business. And so we have a curriculum every 2 weeks. It's a new topic, and we train the entire company on whatever that topic may be. It could be a new technical issue, so something that we're releasing out of R&D. It could be a sales component. Maybe a new deck that we've put together. We train the entire company on it. We recently did a competitive analysis. We trained the whole company on the competitive analysis. So that said,
I love that.
What we're talking about is on that 2-week cycle, everybody comes in as long as we can do it safely. And then on a monthly cycle, doing a barbecue or something that we can go return to our roots of being a family, right? But the key is you have to be mindful. We're going to have to think about it, because we're not all together. The culture is going to become one of the things you have to work on, not just let happen.
I totally agree, and I think from our point of view, similar things. We don't do the cross training like you just talked about, but I love that. I may steal that idea from you. So
Feel free.
It's great. It's a great idea, especially to make sure we make sure that everyone's trained from day one in what they do. But then once you're trained, the sales team doesn't necessarily work on operations and vice versa.
Right.
So I love that idea. But what I've been noticing is that we're missing that human contact right now as well. And we're putting into effect some small gatherings. Actually, at least here in Southern California, we can dine outside right now. That's where we're at in the COVID thing. So we're putting together like small team dinners, and if you don't feel comfortable coming, we'll send you like a DoorDash or whatever to your house, and totally respect that, but if you feel comfortable. And I think that's the big thing, because we got a lot of millennials in our workforce, and they live by themselves, and that's the new worry for me, is we're going to have a lot of issues with some sort of new PTSD from working and isolating by yourself for so long.
We've started having that conversation. I mean, our Zoom happy hours started to tail off, and we talked to one of the leaders in our company, and hey, your guys aren't coming anymore, and they said, there's just so many people. it's just not the same. And, we think of, you got a screen of 30 people, right? And he's like, it's just this cacophony of noise. Nobody knows when to talk and who they're talking to. We really need some human interaction, right? And so we've started to talk about it, and I've challenged people, I'm like, help us think through what we can do within the local guidelines, so, supporting both the CDC and the local governments, what can we do safely that, a majority of people would want to come. And the folks that may have someone at home that's immune compromised or has one of the underlying comorbidities that we're worried about, absolutely, they shouldn't be asked to come if they don't feel comfortable. But to your point, we have other people that are just, yearning for some social interaction, and we forget most of our lives is spent at our job, which is where a tremendous amount of our social infrastructure is. And so we've really started, turning over in our heads. Unfortunately, like you guys, we're in Texas, and things are a little bit, I want to say out of control, but not as under control as we would like. And so it makes it difficult to want to suggest right now, hey, let's all go to a park, or let's all go, but we are thinking through it because it's going to matter. It's going to matter a lot.
It's definitely going to matter. It's, I think we're on month 5 now, and it's not going away anytime soon. So I think as leaders, it's our responsibility to figure out, like you're saying, working through what we can do to get where we need to be for our people, to not just, they've proven they can work from home from my point of view and your point of view. Right. And they're thriving, actually, most of my employees, and I would assume yours as well. But, it's what do they do after they shut their computers off at 5 o'clock? And, are they drinking too much alcohol because they're lonely, or are they, isolating and not talking to anyone? And now that I can tell you, we did have an executive dinner a couple of months ago, maybe like about 2 months ago. They had opened indoor dining for about less than 30 days, because once they opened it, it might as well have just been a petri dish. And so we did take advantage of it with the executive team, which was 7 or 8 of us, and we social distance. And again, same thing, but it was awkward. Everyone showed up and they were like, hey, do I hug you? Do I handshake you? What do I do? And then, like, they hadn't talked to someone in person in so long. And it happened to me too. I was like, it's like, I feel kind of out of sorts. And then a couple of drinks in, everyone was fine. But, initially it was like that. So anyways, I want to move on to the next question. Obviously we've been talking about the COVID-19 impact on your culture. How has that affected your leadership style as well?
Well, I think we talked through this a little bit. It's more about, for me, embracing the challenge, right? That's the biggest thing that I've recognized is, my team, like everybody else when we first started, was scared to death. And what's going to happen to the company? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen? How am I going to manage, school with my kids? What are all, and so, for me, first and foremost, was to stabilize the organization, communicate very effectively with the team, make sure that they felt very comfortable, that they knew what was going on, right? I did not tell my team, oh, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine, right? I did not on March 15th say that. I said, it's gonna be really hard. And then I updated them on a very regular basis. My cadence now is every week or 2, quite frankly, because I need information to change, right? Some days it feels like we're doing business in slow motion. And so I don't want to be repetitive with what I share with the team. But the other piece is, as we talked about earlier, is once I realized this was there was a level of permanency associated with the changes in the business, I challenged my team to challenge themselves with the test and embrace the test. And so a lot of the themes and I'm certain, some of my folks are going to listen to this and like, oh my gosh, all of the darn cycling analogies and the sailing analogies. Oh my God, if he sends out one more email about climbing the hills. But I really have tried to set a tone that is, this is a grind, right? We are in the grind and we are grinding up this hill, and this is just what it is, and enjoy being tested. And oh, by the way, you're doing a fantastic job, right? So So I don't know that I wildly changed my leadership style, but I did adopt, very hardcore, a ton of transparency, and then fairly quickly pivoted from let's get stable to let's just accept this is our reality and do our best to just grind our way through it.
Yeah, I like what you said there. And I think also what I hear is your authenticity as well. And I think that serves it shows through to your employees, when you're being transparent and authentic and telling them it's not going to be okay. It's definitely not okay, but we're going to work it together and we'll get through it. So I think that's great. And it's very similar to the things I've done. Sent them home right around the same time, told them you're working from home until further notice. And we do about, like you said, a bi-weekly update. And it's only because it used to be a daily or I'd check in on everyone every day because I thought it would be 4 to 6 weeks. And now it's like a bi-weekly because there's just no new news, and we got employees still on furlough that want updates. And as soon as we can get you back, we're going to get you back, which is a very hard thing to talk about. Well, let me ask you this one last question. We've covered a lot of topics today, or covered a lot of ground, at least with culture. If you could change anything about your company culture, what would it be and why?
And that is a really good question. And, I think I would change our willingness and ability to celebrate. We're a really driven group. We're in this high growth technology enabled service kind of space. And we invariably end up doing two things, right? We judge ourselves really hard, right? When you're servicing customers, especially in a sort of a centralized way out to remote customers, you're your own worst critic. And then two, when we hit a milestone, man, we focus too quickly on the next one. And so when if you think about it, we've never had a customer cancel our service unless they've gone out of business or sold a site. So we have 100% renewal rate. It means we do a fantastic job. But because we sweat those details, every time we make a mistake, we just live in it, right? And so most days are spent with people trying to manage the mistakes and not celebrating the victory, right? We're our own worst critics, and we find ourselves just focused on the negative of what happened that day because we have to get it fixed. And then that's just compounded by the fact when we get a win, we're like, oh, that's great, but we have to go there. Yep. And we just get this quick attaboy, hey, what's next? And so if I could change one thing, and it starts with me, let's be clear. This clearly is an issue that starts with me, right? I am impatient.
Noted for the EnTouch employees. It starts with the CEO. That's
right. And I know when they listen, they're going to be like, dude, you're talking about you, right? This isn't us. This is you. But it is the fact that we have this culture and the reason we're so good with our customers and the reason we don't have people cancel is because we hold ourselves to such a high standard that sometimes we forget to celebrate.
I love that answer, and I can very much relate. We have a 96% employee retention rate, and we used to be 98. And we recently had two employees leave for their own reasons, and now I have to say 96, and I'm like, what the heck? We used to be 98, but it's like, that's still great. And like, accept that's still great. And you're doing a great job. And if you can't live and be happy in those moments, then what's the point? Right. So I love it. Well, Jon, this has been a great interview. I think we have so much more to talk about, but we're kind of short on time here. So We'll definitely have to have you back on the show. But for the audience out there, if they want to get a hold of you, how can they look you up?
If you want to get a hold of me, you can call my mobile, 214-986-6903, or you can reach out to me at jon.bolen, jon.bolen at EnTouchControls.com. I'd love to hear from someone.
Jon, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure, and we'll look forward to having you back on soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope that today's episode inspired you to become a purpose-driven leader in your career or your community. There's no doubt that when we lead with purpose, we can change lives. If you enjoyed today's show, I'd be grateful if you would take a moment to rate us on your preferred listening platform. To learn more about Branded Group's Be Better experience and how we provide industry-leading, on-demand facility maintenance, construction management, and special project implementation, visit us at www.branded-group.com. Be sure to follow us on social media, and you can also reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. Until next time, be better.